what do you make of what are your conclusions or the key points you think should be made about this spending spree? What it means, what people may not understand, so on and so forth. Take it away.
Yeah, so basically what I was looking at, I think some of the most eye-popping deals, obviously Aaron Judge is sort of in a class of his own, and we're going to leave him to the side for a second. But, some of the other biggest free agents who signed this offseason, Trey Turner, Xander Bogaerts, Jacob deGrom, and Brandon Nimmo, they signed for much longer terms than we probably expected going in. None of these guys, Carlos Correa is 28. All of these guys are older than that. They are some variation of 29 to 33. And, so expected to take more conventional 5 to 7 year deals. And what we've seen is several teams have decided, let's go ahead and extend these deals out. Let's do 11 years for Trey Turner and Xander Bogaerts. And the result of that is when you initially saw the total on the deal, which was, $300 million for Trey Turner, $280 million for Xander Bogaerts, it was kind of a shock factor. But I basically took all of the totals and all of the annual values of the deal and compared them to what Fangraphs crowdsourcing expected the players to get before. And when you look at it that way, yeah, the totals are way higher, but the average annual value is actually lower than expected on all of those deals. Like Nimmo is basically a wash, but for especially Turner and Bogaerts, it's below what they expected the team to pay annually, which is really important because of how baseball's luxury tax, the competitive balance tax, works. It calculates all of it by average annual value, and that, if teams are operating with this sort of soft cap in mind, and if front offices are expecting owners to be looking at that, then one way to keep themselves, give themselves a wider lane to keep getting competitive players and to keep adding is to extend out the deal so that the annual values are lower. So I think what you saw here is basically a trade-off. They are, especially the Phillies and the Padres, they're willing to say the last couple of years of this deal may not be good, but for the first 5 or 6, we're going to make sure we have room to really go after it.
And one of the things you touched on in this is something that I find intriguing because I'm going to sort of go with a local angle. The Cardinals were trying to tell everyone, oh, yeah, we really want to talk to Jose Quintana about bringing him back, and he wants to be here. And as you point out, one of the big things that's developed this offseason is the mid-rotation market. These guys are getting signed all over the place, and they're getting really good deals. They're not getting Verlander or deGrom money, but they're getting really good deals. So who figured that they'd be a hot commodity? But I guess that's a reflection on the urgency teams have about adding pitching. You get them while you can.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest miss in terms of what we expected for the market. Starters who can eat innings are just way more valuable right now than we realize to teams. I don't fully have an explanation for that. I don't know if it's sort of maybe something about the pitch clock. They think relievers will be less effective, or if it's just kind of the continuing effects of the roster limits MLB put in place for 2021, where there's a team can only carry 13 pitchers at a time. There's some sort of force happening where, your number 3, number 4 starters, guys who teams feel confident will take the ball every 5th day, they are getting paid more exorbitantly than we thought they would coming in. It's not that these deals are wild. You're talking about Jameson Taillon and Taijuan Walker getting $17, $18 million a year. It's just that they're doing it for 4 years, and that total starts to add up to a pretty surprising number.
Zach Crizer with us from YahooSports.com. Let's talk catchers. Can I first get you to offer your opinion on the Cardinals signing of Wilson Contreras?
I thought it was an interesting one. We're going to get to Sean Murphy soon, I'm sure. And that's really the comparison, right? Were the Cardinals better off trying to trade prospects or young major leaguers for Sean Murphy, or were they better off just spending pure money to get Wilson Contreras? I think they obviously have the money to go add someone like Wilson Contreras, and I think he's a really good player. I think the Cardinals going after him specifically is interesting because of how divergent he is as a profile from Yadier Molina. Contreras is an excellent hitter, probably a top 3 catcher hitter in the league the past 5 years, and probably for the next 5 years going forward. He can hit for some average. He's got a lot of pop, and we are very confident that he will be a good hitter going forward. What's a little less certain is, he's never rated that well defensively. He's not a great framer, which even at age 38, 39, Yadier Molina was an above-average pitch receiver. And certainly he doesn't have the same reputation for calling games and working with the pitching staff that Yadier Molina did. No one really has that, but there are guys who are closer. So I thought it was an interesting decision to move toward that profile, and I do wonder if it says something about what the Cardinals front office expects to see coming down the line in terms of the automated strike zone.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think his framing has gotten better, and I believe me, I was pouring all over that stuff, and it depends on I'm telling you what you already know. It's really tough sometimes with some of the metrics that are out there, because it depends like who you go to for it. Like the StatCast framing numbers or metrics are different than Fangraphs and Baseball Prospectus. They seem to be tougher graders, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But so sometimes I wonder what the truth really is, because there seems to be a lot of variance in opinions. But I do think he's gotten better at it. But I agree with you. He's still not an elite defensive catcher or even a above-average defensive catcher. I think they're thinking a couple of things. They can always relocate him to DH. Not soon, but they do have 2 good young prospects that they're excited about that'll be in the mix before long. And so, at least Contreras gives them a little flexibility. I've even heard they think, hey, man, even in a pinch, he can play left field for us. So it'll be interesting to see how things go. But I was interested in your opinion, so thanks for that very much. I think you're all over it. Well, this gets us to Sean Murphy. And I have to say, I'm one of the many people, I'm really still trying to figure out what Oakland was doing. I know the reason for wanting to trade him. I don't understand. What I don't know is, did they get nearly enough back for him? Because this is one hell of a catcher. With under contract control, too. 3 more years.
Yeah, I thought it was a weird trade. Which, I'll start with the St. Louis angle here, which is the rumors about who they asked St. Louis for, which was some combination of Lars Nootbaar, Brendan Donovan, Griffin Graceffo. I'm not sure if I'm getting that totally right, but a young pitcher who's highly regarded. The return they got in this deal, at least by the public prospect industry standard, is nowhere close. I mean, it's not that at all. It's not as good as that. So you do wonder, and I think a lot of this comes down to the A's must have a very different opinion of Esteury Ruiz, the outfielder they got from Milwaukee in the deal. They must have a very different opinion of him than the public does, which is fair, but it is that's a tough look when you are trading a guy everyone knew you wanted to trade and who is out there. They could have held on to him for another half season and traded him at the deadline. He was not going anywhere fast. So it was a really odd deal because they found a team in Atlanta who wanted Sean Murphy, but whose best young player they were willing to trade, apparently, was William Contreras, who's also a catcher, which the A's don't need, they believe, because of their last trade with Atlanta for Shea Langoliers. So they work in this 3-way trade to bring in Milwaukee, and Milwaukee ends up with probably the second best player in the deal, just so the A's can kind of get this package of prospects who there's no real headliner by the public industry standard. Again, maybe they think Esteury Ruiz is great. He's speedy, he gets on base in the minors, but he doesn't have a lot of pop. So I think it's just if I were the A's, I probably would have waited it out, waited for someone, whether it was, it probably wouldn't be the Cardinals at this point, but some other team to get more desperate for catching help and offer a more premium package. It just seemed like they pulled the trigger too fast there.
A couple more things for Zach Crizer, MLB editor and writer at yahoosports.com. And I know through the years you could also see his work at one of my favorite sites, Baseball Prospectus. And so I wanted to ask you about Milwaukee, like kind of zone in on William Contreras. And this was such a wonderful get by the Brewers. I mean, it really, really is. So how much better does he make their lineup, in your opinion? Because I'm assuming his power obviously will translate in Milwaukee, which is a pretty friendly place for hitters, as is Atlanta. So it's not like he's walking into, the Grand Canyon and his power is going to drop. It seems like a good fit. How much better are they offensively?
Yeah, and he's going into presumably the starting catching role, which, catchers have overall had a terrible time hitting, and he does not. He is a real hitter. There was nothing in his profile that suggested any sort of flukiness. He was a first-time All-Star this season. It looks like this is just a really good bat, especially for the catching position, and for a Brewers team that really couldn't get pop, and unfortunately they traded away one of the few guys in their lineup that was hitting for pop, Hunter Renfroe. So they're replacing that. They added Jesse Winker in a different trade, hoping for a bounce back. It's an interesting little set of moves they're doing to try to balance out that lineup that had become a little too kind of flash and dash without much of a threat. So, you would see teams just pound the strike zone against them because there wasn't a lot of a threat there. So Contreras gives them that, and I think the interesting thing that Milwaukee is betting on here is, like William Contreras is not known as a superlative defender, but Milwaukee has repeatedly had success improving catchers' framing numbers.
Yep.
And obviously it's hard to gauge degree, but we can gauge direction. We're pretty sure we can gauge direction, and the guys who have gone to Milwaukee have typically gotten better. So if they can help him get even better, you're looking at a really, really solid catcher who they have for 5 years.
Zach, one more for you, sir. Zach Crizer from yahoosports.com. I have to ask you the inevitable remaining free agents question, and depending on whose list you look at, generally speaking, I think we all agree in some order it's Carlos Correa, the shortstop, Carlos Rodon, the left-handed starter, and Dansby Swanson. There's some other fine players on there. Do you have any sense of where that's going to wind up with those three guys? I really don't think the Cardinals are in any of this, but it's unfair to ask you what you think will happen because things have been under wraps. But any sense of where this is going?
Well, I will just say ahead of time that it's pure speculation on my part, but I would be surprised if the Giants do not wind up with one of these guys, at least one of these guys. Obviously Carlos Rodon, the starter, is coming off of a year he spent with the Giants. They have a connection there. They've said they would like to bring him back, but I think what they're really going to be looking at is they had a lot of money wide open. They have nothing on the books beyond 2024 guaranteed, or at least they didn't prior to the offseason. And they are looking for a big fish to kind of build around as they start a new era there. And I have to think they are in strong with Carlos Correa. Obviously, the Trey Turner and Xander Bogaerts deals probably, drove his value up a little bit. But I would think they're in there. I saw a report that they're talking to Swanson, although I would think Swanson's a very good player, but certainly a backup plan to Correa if you had your pick. So I think the San Francisco Giants might be the first team to move or the team to watch in this. Almost every team could use Carlos Rodon, and I think the Yankees are particularly a good fit for him, where he's pitching in a way that I think would play well. He misses a lot of bats, and that is helpful, especially in the AL East smaller parks. So those are the kind of the teams I would watch, and then there's any number of teams that could jump in and make a splash if they wanted to, but I do feel like the Giants and Yankees have some work left to do that they're going to prioritize.
Zach Crizer, thanks for the info. I always enjoy our conversation, so I appreciate you for doing this again. And I hope people follow you on Twitter at Z Crizer, Crizer, and we will talk again in the new year. Thank you, my friend.
Sounds good. Thanks as always.
That's Zach Crizer. He's good, man. He's good. I thought that I was wondering what to make of all the mid-rotation starters and the runs on that Jim Hewer. Mm-hmm. And it really is interesting. So when I was speaking with Zach, and believe it or not, I can multitask. Well, at least sometimes.
We all have to do it nowadays.
But let me just review these contracts real quick, because I think people are fascinated by the money that's going to pitchers. But it also tells us something about the Cardinals, and it tells us about how the Cardinals are, at least to this point, look, there's a chance that, who knows, there's a chance they'll do something. I don't know. I always want to make sure I leave that possibility open, because nothing is 100% as far as what they will or won't do. But anyway, here are some of the these aren't some. These are all of the mid-rotation starter types that have signed already. Now, listen, Tyler Anderson was an all-star for the Dodgers, and he had a heck of a season. All those win-loss record, misleading because of the run support he got from the Dodgers. But it's still, he had a really good year, and he made sure to sign right away with somebody, because it's like he's like, well, I don't know if I'll ever have a year like that again. He ain't stupid. So anyway, Tyler Anderson, and I didn't attach them to the teams that signed him. It's just really what they signed for. So Tyler Anderson, off one good year, he signs 3 years, $39 million. I believe that's what the Angels. See, I'm lying already. I didn't mean to. All right, 3 years, $39 million. Jose Quintana, 2 years, $26 million. Ross Stripling, 2 years, $25 million. Chris Bassett, 35 years old, 3 years, $63 million. And that was with Toronto. Wow. Tawan Walker, 4 years, $72 million. Jamison Tyone, 4 years, $68 million. Zach Eflin, who's had all kinds of injuries and was in their bullpen at the Phillies at the end of the year, 3 years, $40 million. Sean Manaea, 2 years, $25. Andrew Haney, who is spent about 75% of his life on the IL, 2 years, $25 million. Trevor Williams, of all people, not that this is a huge amount, but still, 2 years, $13 million. And then you have a 1-year deal for Kyle Gibson, who's lost it, $10 million. And Mike Clevenger, who is a guy who was once looked like he was going to be one of the best pitchers in the game, but injuries, elbow injury in specific, kind of took him off the rails. He signed a 1-year, $12 million deal. Mid-rotation starters are in great demand. And obviously to the point where even the Cardinals, all this BS about how much they like Jose Quintana, and after all, as Jim Hewer keeps reminding me, the Cardinals did choose him over Miklasz, Wainwright, Montgomery, Flaherty. We can name a couple other guys. They chose him as their starter in Game 1 of the postseason. But yet, the idea of a 2-year, $26 million contract for him, even though the Cardinals will have only one starting pitcher under contract, at least right now, beyond the end of this season, 2 years, $26 million made the Cardinals gulp and spit up with terror. Can't even comprehend you would spend that much. So I'm just fascinated by the Cardinals, absolutely fascinated, because what do they expect, like, I don't know, next year or whatever? Do they expect, like, instead of a Tawan Walker getting 4 years, $72 million, that next year a version of Tawan Walker will sign like 4 years for like $36 million? Like, do they think like the prices are going to go down? No, the prices are going to continue to go up. So are they just going to completely stay out of the market until we have proof that would give us a reason to reach an opposite conclusion, that they're not just like unplugging from the starting pitching market altogether unless they get some low-hanging fruit, take a chance on a guy coming back from an injury, explore the world, send, their scouts out around the globe. We found a guy in Iceland. Unless they're going to continue to do that. I'm talking about pitchers in the major leagues, all of whom have had at least moderate success. It seems to me they're just saying, no, that's we're not going to pay that for pitching. Okay, good for you. Yeah, because we all know you're so damn poor down there.
Oh, you are.
We all know. But boy, next thing you know, it's going to be food stamps. It's unbelievable. So, it's going to be interesting to me see how they get their way out of this in terms of if they have another shortage. I think that's where they're going to put not all of their prospects, but I think that's where they're going to, that's the capital they're going to use. It's going to be trade for pitching rather than spend for pitching. And they better hope that they know what they're doing with the drafting and development of these guys, right?
Absolutely. The other thing is, they've done it 2 years in a row. So for me to sit here and go, I pretty much expect them to do the same thing as far as starting pitching. And it is wait. And sometime in July go, well, let's see if we can go find two guys pretty cheap to help fill us out the rest of the year. That's what they've done the last 2 years. They've gotten away with it. But it doesn't help them once they get to the playoffs, obviously. Now, Quintana, again, I'll just remind people, as you said, he started game one. And, oh, by the way, he shut out the Phillies in his 5 1/3 innings in game one.
Yes,
right?
Yes, he did.
So he wasn't good enough to bring back. That one just baffles me, the fact that you just don't realize, hey, you're going to need more. You're going to need another starter here or there, and why not go get somebody that that has worked for you and was successful here, and he could have been working with a catcher he knows well, and didn't even explore that option. I don't think they can tell me, oh, we talked. Just like you talked with Trey Turner and Verlander.
It was BS.
Yeah, come on.
Unless they could get him on a 1-year cheap deal, they had no intention whatsoever. So it's interesting. The Cardinals. Hey, John Mozeliak was right, and you know what? He was telling the truth about one thing recently. And listen, I don't consider the Contreras signing to be some. Oh my God, they spent all of that. Oh my goodness! I'm shocked. No, not at all. It's actually a really fair price contract. You cannot find offensive bat first catchers of his magnitude. They're not out there. You got to grab one while you can. And so for what they paid. Because, it's no longer 1966. I know how that works. Like in our great town, it's people just go to sleep at night and just, I wish I could wake up and it's 1966 all over again. I get it. Okay. That's what do you think you're going to pay for a catcher who's been the best hitting catcher? If you go by OPS, among other things, but let's just use OPS. He's been the best hitting catcher in baseball since 2016. So what do you think you're going to pay for that? You're going to give him what? You're going to give him Matt Wieters money or something? Like I know that I'm annoying with this because I keep saying it, but it's like I don't understand what people expected. You either give up prospects, you give up players you don't want to trade, but hey, that's one way to do it, or you make a choice to spend another asset that you have, which is money, and you got plenty of it. And they're nowhere near right now the first level of the payroll tax. I was looking at roster resource, and the Cardinals are sitting at about 133, 134 million right now. They're nowhere near any kind of panic zone, right? So the Contreras thing works out fine. And oh, by the way, they're paying him $10 million this year, and then it escalates. So he agreed to work for a smaller salary this year. So they have all the freedom and flexibility they would want to get something done. But what will they get done? When a Jose Quintana deal at $13 million a year for 2 years, when that terrifies him and gives Mo the nighttime fever sweats, I don't know what to say. It's too much. Wait a minute. You gave Matz 4 years, $44 million last year. a guy who's got a history of injuries. And tell me again how many starts he made for y'all. What was it, 10? I think it was 10.
About that. I'll look up the exact number, but not many more.
No, you don't
that.
have to.
Oh,
I think it
okay.
was 10. I'm just making a point.